So we're all used to putting plant food on our pot plants or feeding our lawns, and in the same way, arable crops, farmers' crops need feeding, they need nutrition. And 200 years ago, the way they used to get their nutrition was putting farmyard manure onto the crops. So there used to be lots of livestock on the farm and you'd use the manure to feed the crops. The founder of Rothamsted, Sir John Bennett-Lawes, tried another way of feeding crops. He manufactured inorganic fertilisers. So he was able to more carefully target which nutrients the crops needed. And he set up a series of experiments between 1843 and 1856 which tested these different combinations of his inorganic fertilisers and compared them with farmyard manure. And that's what we call now our long-term or our classical experiments. And the most famous one of those is called Broadbrook. It's in winter wheat and it has these treatments with farmyard manure and the different fertiliser treatments. And we know, for example, to protect crops against pests, weeds and diseases, it's better to grow a variety of crops, a rotation of crops. And it's also good to put some organic matter onto the soils, as you would on your allotment. You dig in some manure or you dig in some compost to increase the structure and improve the health of the soil. We know that it's good for agricultural soils to also improve organic matter and improve the carbon content of the soil. One of the things we can't test on Broadbrook is changing what we would call the cultivation, or how you prepare the soil before you drill the crop. And your two alternatives are either to plough, so to turn the soil over, or to leave it alone and try and reduce the disturbance in the soil. And that will affect things, for example, like worms. So if you plough, you very quickly destroy the population of worms in the soil, but if you leave the soil alone, you allow the worm population to build up, and those worms will contribute something to the soil health and give you something back. We can't answer that question on Broadbrook. So we've set up a new experiment in the last 2 years. We've called it the large-scale rotation experiment. And we're testing two big things on that experiment. One is increasing the diversity of cropping. So at one extreme, you have continuous wheat on Broadbrook. In our new experiment, we're comparing simple rotations with a greater diversity of crops. And then the other thing we're testing is ploughing versus this zero tillage, not disturbing the soil at all. It's been tremendously useful for us as scientists today to use the samples that Sir John Bennett-Lawes kept when he started the experiments 175 years ago. So in this landmark year, we've decided to build on that legacy that John Lawes left for us. And with our new experiment, we're now starting a new series of samples, which we're going to archive in the same place as the old experiments. And we anticipate that that will be the beginning of a new time series that scientists in the future will be able to use and look back at this year as the starting point.